words versus deeds.
Mm.
Because when you look at these sort of disconnected, progressive, hard left policies, they will say one thing, but judge them not by what they say, judge them by what they do. Right. And there's no better example of that. I mean, obviously, we just went past Holocaust Remembrance Day, and there you have President Biden, and rightfully gets up. He gives an excellent speech, by the way, at the, in honor of Holocaust remembrance, and emphatically says never again. And yet Israel is at war, and they are at war defending themselves because they were the ones that attacked. And what does he do the next day or the day after? He lets it know that he's going to cut off weapons supplies to Israel in fighting this war. So is never again really never again? So do you judge him based on the words, or do you judge him based on the actions?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, that's what we're talking about.
That's Benjamin and I have often had conversations about this, particularly people who say Trump is a racist, sexist, bigot, whatever. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, but the gist was, I don't care if he's a racist as long as he doesn't behave in a way, as long as he doesn't mess with my money. I don't care if you're the biggest misogynist butthole. And this is me talking. I don't care. I don't care if you hate women. Are you interfering with my money, or are you just over there hating women? As long as you're out of my way, I don't care. And
that's what makes you a libertarian.
But this guy, I mean,
well,
to just lie to people's face, or to behave in a way to save face, and then just do the complete opposite. Wait a minute.
Where do you think this comes from? He learned at the knees of the master. The master was Barack Obama, who not only, he would say things and then do something else. Well, if you like your health care, you can keep it. And which is just one of the sort of inconsistencies of saying one thing and yet doing another. But as long as for public consumption, you can say, what I said, that it doesn't matter what you do, because there are no consequences. And there's so much cacophony of noise that drowns out, and people are so busy trying to eke out a living. Right. And where did Barack Obama learn that, and the rest of them? I mean, I'm old enough to remember when Yasser Arafat, who was the leader of the PLO, would say one thing in English to the Western world and say the exact opposite in Arabic to the faithful. What's the difference here?
Yeah.
Right.
That's when was the last time? Here's the thing. They suffer no consequences for the lies. And that's what it comes down to. When was the last time you remember a politician, particularly a Democrat, suffering any consequences for just straight up lying to people? I don't remember a time.
Well, I mean, you remember sometimes when you were younger, seemingly so they get elected, they get booted out of office. But I sit
Here's
here
the
and
deal.
again,
I learned everything I needed to learn when I saw Bill Clinton in front of God and everyone say, well, it depends on what your definition of the word is.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Oh, my God. I learned everything I needed to know in that moment.
Look, saying one thing and doing another. Look, that's one thing you have to say about Trump, right? If anything, Trump is the reverse, right? He is not gifted of a gifted of oratory like Barack Obama is or was and is, but he generally, when you sort of can parse his language, and it's kind of hard because he's sort of a Queens guy at heart.
Yeah.
And you get to what he really means. Most people are not going in retrospect. Oh, he was right about this. He was right about the oil. He was right about the economy. He was right about the border. He was right about the Middle East. All of those things. So you have on the one hand someone who says one thing and does another, versus someone who says something and basically does the same thing, even though he is not the most eloquent and not the most articulate in all of this.
Yeah. Yep. Right? I would rather have that guy all day.
Well, so what do you make of 100,000 people in Blue, New Jersey at the rally? I don't know if you saw the pictures, but, I'm a Jersey boy. They're down in Wildwood. I mean, that place was mobbed. 100,000 people, 80,000, 120, whatever.
I love it. I love it. I think that, the left has severely overplayed its hand. And every time I hear anything about Target losing money, Target not putting gay pride stuff in their stores all over the country anymore, Bud Light losing money, where you see real Americans taking a stand against these big corporations, and against, because we know we live in an oligarchy, right? We don't live in the United States of America where our vote counts and whatever. Our federal government.
Sure you do. The question is, do you live in a constitutional republic? You still live in the United. They haven't changed. By the way, did they change the name of the country when I was like sleeping?
What did I say?
You said you don't live in the United States of America. I'm like, okay, well, where do you live?
Well, I'm saying, like, we're run by a bunch of oligarchs, right?
That's different.
BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard.
It's still called the United States of America, so that you still live in the United States.
Oh my God!
Did you just whatever me?
Oh,
now you're going to say fine, right? Whatever, fine, okay. The two words that, ladies and gentlemen, when a woman says, they're not. So, just being the inner misogynist, sexist in me, but well, I mean, seriously. You still live in the United States. The question is, do you live in a constitutional republic where the laws, where justice is blind and the laws apply equally? Right.
And we know that they don't.
Okay. In that case, you still live in the United States. You just don't live in a constitutional republic. I mean, that's really the argument here. But I want to get back to this theme of words versus deeds, because it's now playing itself out in a myriad of ways. The other thing we always have talked about is sort of the corruption, political power play of the teachers' unions. So the teachers' unions, by the way, since 2018, you want to talk about actions have consequences. We've argued that the teachers' unions are not about the teachers. They're definitely not about the kids. All they're about is about the political playback in the machine and their own power and pushing progressive policies, which if you can say 3 times fast, you're better than me. They've lost 220,000 members since 2018, ostensibly, right? Because they're a political organization. The NEA, which is what we're talking about, has had a mass exodus since 2018 of almost 250,000 of their members, right after the Janus decision, which Janus is Janus. Janus decision basically said that you can leave the union and you don't have to, if you're a teacher, be a union and you can still work. But again, it's another example of you say one thing, oh, we're for the teachers, but your actions and where you spend your money shows that you're something else.
Yep.
Right? Say one thing, words, do something else, deeds.
Well,
words versus deeds.
I was, interestingly enough, listening to a study this week that said about 10% of public school children are victims of some kind of sexual misconduct from a teacher, coach, or bus driver. Most likely the three.
How do they come up with 10%? How do they come up with that number?
I have to look into the study a little bit more, but they were saying 5 million of the 50 million students in school will have something happen to them.
That's a hard number for me to believe. If that's the number, that then we are in worse trouble than I thought, and it's no wonder we're losing the younger generation to the anti-Israel BDS pro-Hamas supporters.
And that's what they found, is that a lot of times, instead of dealing with this instead of dealing with like actually catching teachers in relations with students, they let the teacher resign or just switch school districts. So much like other scandals we've seen in the past, these abusers are just getting shuffled around the system instead of criminally prosecuted because the school doesn't want to deal with it.
Well, it sounds like another story I remember about 20 years ago. But I just question those numbers.
Yeah.
Not because I don't think they're real. It's just I'd like to see how they came up with those numbers.
It's stunning.
That is an egregious percentage. I mean, 1% would be egregious, but if you're telling me it's 10%, it is pretty harsh. But
I'd love to get one of the we have a couple of friends of the channel that are education experts. I'd love to get them in here to talk about some of this stuff.
Yeah, no,
and that study in particular.
So getting back to the
We're gonna
teachers
make
unions,
that work.
folks, if you're listening, if you want to know where if you're in the teachers union, you want to know where your money's going from the NEA, look up For Our Future Action Fund, right? And that's where millions are going. And they spent, by the way, $176 million in 2023. This is the National Education Association, spent $176 million of dues on things like For Our Future Action Fund, which, quote, pushes progressive power through voter engagement, issue advocacy, and community organizing with a focus on social justice and climate change. Now, Ericka, do you want to
What?
tell me what the hell that has to do with providing better teachers to educate our kids so they can compete in the world? Because isn't that what we're supposed to be doing?
I didn't hear anything in that. I heard some commie
Sure.
gobbledygook.
You heard ba
That's
ba
what I
ba
heard.
ba 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 ba
Yeah.
ba like that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
let me read this again. Progressive power through voter engagement, issue advocacy, community organizing with a focus on social justice and climate change. So this is what the teachers union, the NEA, is supporting and investing money in. All the while they're
Voting.
losing members, which tells you they don't give a damn.
I mean, that's
They don't care.
How does teaching people to vote on climate change make teachers' lives better, make education better, make student outcomes better? I mean, if you can provide for me the evidence, Robert, I would bet.
I can't provide
See,
for you.
you are a smart man. You are a reasonable man. I bet if they provided some evidence that somehow any of that did anything good for the children's, we would probably be for it. But we know that it doesn't.
Wait a minute. National Education Association, the NEA, is the word children in there at all? Is the word teacher in there at all?
Oh, that's
right?
Interesting.
So,
Robert, that is
not in
fascinating.
Well, it's also obvious, right? They are a political organization and they are part of the machine, and their job is to get, it used to be to get Democrats elected. Now it's to get progressives elected so that more money funnels to them so they can get more of them elected so they can push this agenda that they have to, what's the agenda? We're 5 days away from transforming the United States of America. This is the unifying thing.
What was your girlfriend's salary again? What was it? The Hop and Hobbit. Oh no, she's not NEA. She's
no. That's the American Federation of Teachers.
That's right. That's right.
But I can tell you,
doesn't she make she makes like a 6-figure salary, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah, I want to say 300, but wait a minute. The NEA president's name is Becky Pringle, right? I'll have a potato chip, please. Wait.
Dude, that is such an elementary school teacher's name, Becky Pringle.
So last year she made $495,787. So let's just round it off to $500,000. So she makes $500,000. And guess what the average teacher salary is in this country?
Like 50,000?
Nope. Take a guess.
70,000?
42. So she makes more than 10 times the average teacher's salary to push this progressive propaganda crap on everyone.
Teachers out there, you need to cancel your membership, cancel your dues, screw these people.
Just
start
say one
your
word.
Own homeschool.
Janus, JANUS, which is a Supreme Court decision that you guys can quit the unions. They can't force you to be a part of the union, and then just move to a state where there's right to work. So I know we're getting a high sign, folks. let me just segue this again and tell you, June 5th, Israel Appreciation Day, has nothing to do with them being a Jewish state. It has nothing to do with them even as an ally of the United States. It's all the other positive contributions that Israel has made, continues to make, whether it's freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, medicine, technology, human rights. I mean, Queers for Palestine, you should try to go there, right? LGBTQ, see how far that gets you. All these women in this country who don these burqas and put on their face covering, talk to the women in Iran who, if they take it off, get killed because they're not allowed to unmask their face. So, there is a cognitive dissonance thing going on. So it's important we understand that how special Israel is in the middle of the Middle East. Israel Appreciation Day, June 5th, Washington, D.C. Be there.